Hello, my name is Hasan Sorrells. This is Tom Libby,
Welcome back, everyone.
and you are listening to the GrowthCraft podcast. The GrowthCraft podcast is designed with the startup founder in mind. This podcast is committed to growing your connections to our GrowthCraft advisors, increasing your engagement overall with the GrowthCraft community, and of course, to growing your knowledge about all of the benefits that GrowthCraft can provide. We can't wait to bring you along on our journey and on our conversation today. So, here on the podcast, we interview startup founders, advisors, and others about their journey, their process, their product, and about where they are at in their entrepreneurial journey. And with that being said, I would like to welcome back to the podcast for a follow up conversation, Shah Nawaz of Altegon. How you doing today, Shah?
Thank you so much, Jason and the lobby, Tom Levy, again for giving me an opportunity for this season second. So I'm actually running the Altegon. So Altegon is a video communication platform, which is primarily designed for the businesses who are looking for a fully predictable cost and the flexibility model in terms of where their data lives. Okay, so that's the primarily around Altegon, and this is where we was first time met. That was actually started our journey, and now we are actually in a foundational level where we are already accelerating it. So we already secure few clients, and we are getting more towards that one.
So, so when we ask startup founders how they're doing today and they go right into their startup, that just tells us that you're super excited about what you're doing, right? So you didn't even say, "Yeah, I'm doing great today. I love the weather." You didn't even go right. You just went right into, "This is what we're doing and we did this and now we have clients." And which, by the way, I love. I'm not suggesting
Mm-hmm.
that's a bad thing. I think it's great that you're that passionate about your startup. So remind us, I know it's a video platform and I know that you've gone through a couple of pivots here. But talk to us a little bit about what problem you're solving for these clients that you're starting to bring on, that you're now seeing them sign up for your platform. But why are they coming to you over some of the other video platforms that are out there?
Okay, that's an interesting paper. That's an interesting question, I would say. So, if I recall it, so before even starting this journey as a product company, we was a service company, and we was a service company was offering specialized video conferencing and the live event services. So during that time, that we realized that the all almost all of the customers that came to us was the kind of the in between. When I say in between, so there is a two lines in the communication area. One are that's like the Zoom model where the per users are operating, and the Microsoft Teams and the Google Meet. And then there is another boundary which are operating under per minute. Okay, like the Agura, like Twilio was at what time was it was pushing, but now he has focused more on other services. So these are the two boundaries, and then there is a middle ground where a reasonable chunk of the customer lies, which are actually struggling between due to these two extreme. So that's the realization, and we came up to solve that problem. Okay, and what is that problem fundamentally is that problem is actually around two things. One thing is around the predictable cost, and another was the key point is that where their data should be live. Okay,
Mm.
so these are the two fundamental pain point, or the pain point of the customers. We came to address them. Okay, so that's the during services we realized it, and that's we here came up to resolve it.
So when you think about predictable cost and data storage, um, the course of this pivot, I presume, or this growth of yours, has because it's been at least a year since we last talked to you. Um, the developments in machine learning, what is commonly known as LLMs and artificial intelligence, The consumer end of that, of course, has exploded. On your end, in thinking about predictability and cost and thinking about data storage, how has the explosion of LLM use impacted your startup, and is that something that you're offering, or piece of what you're offering, without getting into anything proprietary? Is that a piece of what you're offering your customers?
Okay, so first, even all of the audience, I just want to recall the what predictable cost is and what the data lives. So, and then I also be touching that LLM model as well, and how it is impacting us today in terms of the business wise and in terms of our customers. Okay,
Okay.
so when we say the predictable cost, so predictable cost mean when it comes to a per minute call, so if you have the user base going, so that's the opex is exploding. Okay, which is as a business at some, each business has some threshold where it's you can't actually bear it. Okay, it's directly impacting your profit margin. So that's what we called it, because initially when people started, they believe, okay, it's a free 10,000 minutes or so, it's good to go. But when actually business start, so it's where they lock up. Okay, and that's the way most of our customers came up. It's around the live streaming. If someone building the solution around the sports platform, the live event platform, so these are the customers where they are hitting. And even the people who are using per minute approach for building the telehealth platform, so kind of these everything where you that's not, that's the major one. And the on the other side, the data live, because when it comes to AI reality, so we when we was in 2025, so we are assessing that reality as well. So in the AI, the way it's impacted us is the where actually the data is. Because before that one, if you have a multiple data, there is a constraint on the computation side. But when
Mhm.
LLMs came up, so the data and analysis and the computations and getting insight is not an issue. So now you realize the real power where actually data should live it. Okay. So that's why if you remember the sovereignty concept came up. So Europe jump in and he says requested to Amazon and IBM for the sovereign cloud. And also every nation is trying to become an AI sovereign nation. So this is the your questions answered is that it's actually us impacting us in a positive way. Okay, the second point that where we plan it, that where the communication data should live is now become a fundamental decision for the AI harvesting. Okay, so if as a nation, if as a corporate entity, so I need to now more careful where data should be. Okay, because then I have to get insight on top of it. Otherwise, if it's somewhere else, so it's actually insight for someone else. Okay,
Mhm.
and also secrets and everything's that's privacy, everything's matters. So I hopefully I address the question in the context how it is impacting us.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think you addressed the question how it's impacting you. So how about what about from your customer's perspective? So like I understand like the way you just worded it, like how from an internal perspective, your like AI kind of made some changes to the way you think about your product. What about from the customer's perspective? Is that impacting them the same way, or is it impacting the customer side a little differently?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that part. It's
No, it's
actually,
quite all right. That's what
yeah,
that's what
Yeah,
Hazel and
yeah,
I are here for.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
It's impacting them in a positive sense. Okay, so now when we say in the last year for let's say private deployment for them, they was saying okay it's a not as important. But even at the start of the 2026, if we talk about around that one, so that's time we don't need to talk them, they itself come us to okay, is it the option is that we can host it privately, is it that natively support the AI stuff? So we say yes, because we built in has the AI capability in terms of meeting intelligence inside of the in terms of the transcription as well, in terms of the notes of the meeting. So everything like that one, which is around that whole conversation. Okay, so which is actually kind of a foundational stuff for them. Okay, just to give you uh, I would say not exactly sort of competitor, but a reasonably a good competitors for us is the Life Kit. So Life Kit is an open source project uh, which has the massive tractions during this AI boom. So it's also open source video communication platforms. So it has a massive downloads during this period. And for for your informations, Google sorry X signed a deal with them as well for their internal X voice. Okay, so this is the kind of tractions we are seeing in 2026, and this is, I would say, the kind of the start of these tractions, and we seeing more towards even in 2027.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because the integration with well, the competition around open source and how that integrates then or integrates how that envelops or utilizes, that's a better term, utilizes the backend data, the backend insights, which I'm glad you brought up sovereignty there because that's a whole other side jog we could go down. But how it utilizes those insights in order to provide the user um, more tools and more resources is really very interesting right now. Um, so I guess that's my tee up for this next question, which is, your video communication platform, like you said, is serving the folks in the middle who are looking for predictable cost and reliable data storage. Um, are you I presume the target for your customers is global right now rather than just regional. um who would you say is your largest target market right now? Who are you getting the most interest from and the most traction among? And how has the feedback from those customers, from those users, impacted the development of your product?
Okay, so when we started it, as I earlier mentioned, around the predictable cost and the where the data lives. So earlier we was thought that okay, this is the central piece of the market that we will be captured. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, now we have the more leverage. Okay,
Okay.
and it is the AI leverage.
Okay.
We say the way now the product development is super fast, so the features which we earlier was believing takes 6 months, 10 months, now it can be takes days to just be ready and with a production grade readiness. Okay. So now if let me tell you with the customers we are already in talks. So universities, they already have the Google Meet, Zoom, but it was quite interesting for me that they are happy to replace it. So
Hmm.
they are more interested to take it up and just want to make sure as per their regulatory body that data within their country. Okay, and they are happy to just provide us to deploy our solution there. Okay, so that's the area which we at that time not thought it that okay, it's become so easy for us. Okay, that's one. And even every business who has, I would say, the kind of numbers above 100 is more
Hmm.
interested to go with us. Okay. Yes, there are certain exceptions which we believe that in the upcoming roadmap, once we cover up, so those can be tabs as well. But at the moment, every business that has a reasonable size, so he is more where he can think that okay, there's investment payback in terms of AI analytics and everything. So they are happy to go with us. Okay, and that was the uh, surprising in the context that when we actually started that one, we didn't envision it that they becomes a kind of part for us. Okay, so we was morely focused on the middle, but now every business who has a reasonable size is happy to go with us. Okay, so that's the data sets we are so far the people's home we talk about it. So that's something.
Do you find yourself being attractive to industries that have like heavy compliance, like say like the medical, like here in the US, like the medical field with HIPAA, the SEC compliances and things like that, where they have such strict things that what you can do with data. Do you find like industries like that are are more likely to do business with you because of the because of that structure and that captive the way that you capture data?
Yes, yes, these are, but I was because these was the where we initially planned it that the heavy compliances industries, they more concerned about where data is live. But
Yeah.
now I'm talking about even the sector which is less compliant, they are even happy to go with us. Okay, and that's what I'm saying that it's surprising for us. So, for example, now the battle is shifted somehow on a nation level. So, for example, to be honest, so for example, in the US, might be it's easier for the customer in the US to go with the local tools
Mm.
because they have already by default compliant to that one. Unless
Um,
unless they think is that okay, what I'm offering, because what we as a structure designed it, we say it our solution is compliant native. So we design in a such a way that you don't need to pass every, it is already every essence is there that you need to take that box and you just operate it within your parameter. Okay, so that's why we are compliant native, so we are still have the edge. But yes, every solution who is homegrown at the moment has leverage than the external solutions. So this is how the world is shaping in terms of the technology, uh, kind of security, I would say, are the that's I think so more better words. Technology sovereignty, I would say, not the security.
Yeah. So Hassan, I think to be
yeah.
honest with you, you've got to figure out a way to land this plane because I have a feeling that we could talk to Shah for a very long time.
Yeah.
And these podcast episodes are supposed to be scheduled for short. So,
Exactly. He's
but
supposed to be
I
short
feel
stints.
yeah. So Shah, I actually outside of the podcast, I think that Hassan and I would both like to have a conversation with you that's not being recorded because I have a feeling we have some more um detailed questions. I'll just leave it at that that I think that we would like to ask you. But I'll give you the final question here, Hassan, before we wrap up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, this is fascinating. This is why I didn't jog down the road of like sovereignty because that
Yeah,
sort of kicked off a number of
yeah,
different thoughts in my brain. Um, and this idea of local solutions becoming more, shall we say, popular. Let's
Well,
use that term.
I'm seeing that happening a lot in other industries too. Like
Yeah.
even in the technology field of like we used to have enterprise level on-premise software that went
Hmm.
to the cloud, and now all of a sudden there's some schools of thought that things should be back on-prem, right? Like so. Again, I agree with you. I think that there's this weird cycle thing that's happening right now that I think we could talk to Shah about for a long time. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
one point I would love to be just add it. So now the on-prem is more like people is more prefer even corporates is more prefer towards sovereignty side. I would say the private cloud. They are happy with
yeah,
the ease of the cloud, but within their geographical boundaries.
right.
Okay. So that's how the regulation is pressing every region. So, for example, if you say in the US, there is a health related HIPAA compliant in the Saudi PDPL, here in Pakistan, also the same law. So where the where then citizen data should be remain in that, and the EU has the GDPR. So if
Right.
you look in that the compliances, they are actually by default pushing everyone that the data should be within the national boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
local clouds are actually getting emerging as a new player. Okay, so
Uh,
now you will be seeing in the near futures that yes, Amazon still and the Azure still have the upper hand, but they will be making more local collaboration.
For now. for
For
now.
now, for now, for now. Well, and Tom, I would assert that this is also part of, because I'm not even going to touch on the geopolitical implications of this.
Of course, of course.
But I'm going to leave that way the heck over there. That's not what this podcast is. That's way beyond the purview of this show. However, I will say for our listeners, this is one of the knock-on effects of deglobalization. And so when we look at most of us who are working and are building as entrepreneurs have built in a space of globalization. Over the last 10 years, the decoupling, for good or ill, you can judge that yourself, but the decoupling of nations from each other has begun to occur. And I think Shah's company, Altegon, is on the cutting edge, as are many other organizations on the cutting edge of this decoupling, particularly in the technology space. So it's going to be a weird, wild ride for the next 25 years. And I wish Shah a lot of
25.
good luck.
I'm thinking the wild ride's going to be 5 years is going to be like a bucking bronco, and then it's going to be a wild ride after the 5.
Well, we'll leave Shah to determine that. So
I agree with Jason because there is a globalization structure in place. So it's required reasonable time to just decouple it because there is a lot of dependencies. So that's I believe that took longer than what we are anticipating. So, but yes, the direction, the wave is in that direction.
in that
That's all.
direction. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let me land this plane right for all of our listeners here today. Shah, where can folks find Altegon? Where can they find your product, your service? Where are you speaking, presenting? How can they connect with you as a founder? Where can folks get a hold of you? Go ahead and let them know.
Yeah, they can find me via our official website, altegon.com. So if they want to give a try our solution, they can simply sign up and try our solution. If they want the solutions deployment on their private cloud, so they can just hit us, contact us either via website form or either writing us at hello@altegon.com, whatever convenient for them as well. And if they even want to reach out to me as well, they can simply say hello@altegon.com and I am available.
Excellent. Thank you very much today, Shah, for coming on our show. We really do appreciate it. Thank you for this follow-up. Very exciting what you're doing with Altegon. And with that, well,
Thank you so much. Thank you
we're out.
so much for both of you.
Thank you. And we're out.